Right, we go way back in time from when I was a youngster. I wanted to be an actor, as everyone does.
They soon
Um,
learn.
yeah.
Hi guys, welcome back to Interval Conversations. I'm so glad to be joined today by my good friend, Mr. Craig Price. Now, Craig has been the head of automation for Cirque du Soleil for, what, 10 years? Was it 9, 10 years?
Well, I've been with Cirque for 10 years. I was head of automation for about 8 years on different shows, yeah.
But before we get into Cirque du Soleil, how did you first actually get into this industry? Where did it all kick off?
Ugh. Right, we go way back in time from when I was a youngster. I wanted to be an actor, as everyone does.
They soon
Um,
learn.
yeah. And I actually went to the Altrincham Garrick and did these drama classes on a Saturday morning. And then through school projects and stuff, that I did drama. And then one day, a friend of mine who I was at the Garrick with, he worked backstage at the Opera House in Manchester, and that's when Phantom of the Opera was there. And they said they needed people, they needed crew, because they'd never had a show so big there. So I worked as a flyman on the Phantom of the Opera for a couple of years when I was a student, like 19, 20. And then through that, I actually quite enjoyed doing technical theatre. I managed to save up money, and I went to Australia on a backpack visa, traveling around Australia. I ended up falling into lots of theatre work. So by the time I hit about 23, 24, I kind of went, well, I might as well kind of probably try and do this for a living. And I seem to be getting work in it. So I did that. And then at that point, I was working on a show called Miss Saigon. I was living in Holland at the time. I was there for a few years. And then through that, I got to stage management. I did a lot of stage management jobs, small tours around the UK. And then I ended up working on big jobs for stage management, like the Olympic ceremonies for the Olympic Games, and I did the Commonwealth Games. And then it was at that point, after working away for a long time, I got a little bit over doing stage management, and I had some experience of doing automation on Miss Saigon again. And a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to try doing some automation. I knew the show, so tried doing some automation on Saigon. So I did that, and then from that, I got into the automation world. I did musicals like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang tour. I did Miss Saigon, Phantom. I went on to work for the RSC. I did a season with them, and then I went to Belgium to do a new show in the Far East, which was the training and formation of a show called The House of Dancing Water. So I was one of the two automation guys that did the pre-programming and training and formation for that show, because their rehearsal space is in Belgium. And then from that, I went on to Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil obviously heard about me at that point and asked me to interview for one of their tours, which was in South America at the time. And so I went on and worked for a show that in a big top, and then that show then got converted into an arena show, which toured North America, and then eventually Europe and everywhere. And then I carried on doing more shows with Cirque du Soleil. I did 4 shows in total, and then I took a job as what's called the Automation Globetrotter job, which is basically I'll be based out of head office. But luckily, I didn't need to be in the head office, which is in Montreal. I could do it from this very office here, and at Halifax, and then just go away when I needed to. But unfortunately, that all got stopped by this little kind of virus thing, and then so I'm not doing that currently. But hopefully, I'll restart again this year, next year, something like that, possibly.
Sometime soon. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so you sort of covered my next question of tell us about some of the shows you worked on. Like, and you mentioned Miss Saigon, Phantom. So what actually goes into automation? How does it work with the shows? Put my teeth back in. I'll re-record that bit. So so let me try that again. So you've told us about some of the shows you've done over the years,
Yeah.
Miss Saigon, Phantom. Could you tell us what automation actually is? What is the process for automation in a show?
Okay, so those that do not know what automation is, shame on you. But if you have no idea what it is, basically, if you're watching a show, a West End show, say, and there's a piece of set that moves on its own. Now, generally, back in the day, it used to be a lot of stagehands used to carry on a big piece of set, and then they'd run off stage, or they do it behind a curtain. So what happens with that is now automated. So it is what it says. It's basically operated. It's normally comes on stage through a tracking system used by winches, or maybe there's a hydraulic system involved in there. And it's a system that moves from one point to another when it's told to at a certain speed and acceleration and deceleration. And it's moved by a man, basically, fundamentally, a man sat at a desk will press a button, and that will tell a big rack system, like a brain, what those winches or hydraulic parts should do, how they should move. That's the very, very basic of it. So if you're to put that system in, you obviously need to install all the mechanical aspects of it, and you also need to program it, because basically when something moves, you generally, during a show, you just hit a button when the DSM tells you to. So that all is pre-programmed in, so it moves at exactly the same point, the same speed, it stops exactly the same place every single time. Well, that's what should happen. Of course, it goes wrong occasionally, but that's your very basics of what automation is. Yeah.
Because I saw an interview you did for an American news channel, and you were taking them on the tour of the Big Top. I believe it was Volta, the show. You were showing them all the racks.
It did, yep, yeah.
I found that.
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's right. I think still there as I am now.
The automation in that show, wow! Like the scissor lifts coming up.
That was a phenomenal show.
Yeah. Someone getting lifted by the hair.
Yes, that's right, Danila, lovely Danila. So, yeah, there was a hair hanger in that. There was a huge 6-ton cube where the doors would open, and it was actually like a screen, basically an AV screen, and then that wouldn't move down and spin. We had 3 hydraulic lifts in the stage which would lift up, and then we had also a lot of performer flying, generally with circus stuff for me. There's been a lot of performer flying. That's what I like to do best, you know, throw them around in the air, because that's what circuses do. So that's it was a very interesting show. It was very busy, and it still is a good show. So go see it, kids. Yeah.
Because I noticed as well, you mentioned in the other interview, the desk you had for the automation was custom built. This show.
No, the desk isn't custom built. Oh. I mean, there's not a lot of them in the world. But the programming that goes in is customized programming for that particular show. So because you have a desk, but of course, when you have a desk and you send it to a show, you don't know what we call them axes. And axes is one of the things that will move. That's how you call it, 1 axis or 3 axes. That's how many axes you have on a show. So you don't know how many axes it has. So you have to set that up yourself, and you have to set up the moves of the show yourself, and where they go, and which playback, which is one of the many buttons that they have on the desk to put it in order to operate the show. So yes, but they're not bespoke desks to the show, but they're not that common either, to be honest.
Yeah. So what was it like? What is the creative process like for a Cirque du Soleil show? Like, are you involved in the rehearsals? Do you come in at a certain point and go, oh, we can make that work?
The nice thing about Circus compared to theatre shows is that it's constantly changing. Like no show, well, not no show is ever the same, but it changes a lot more than theatre musical shows. So musical shows, once you've got your musical put in there, it kind of pretty much stays the same for the rest of its life. You know that this is the set, you know that this needs to be moving in here at this point, and it kind of, not all the time, but it pretty much is a solid show. With circus shows, even after the creation is done, even after the premiere is done, it's constantly evolving and being created, and new acts will go in and new acts will come out. Other acts they'll have changes. So the artist will do different tricks. And they say, oh, I want to try this today, Craig. So, okay, let's try that. I want to do this trick in the air. Okay, so we'll change that cue and sequence altogether. And that can happen after the show's been on for 3 weeks. It can happen after the show's been on for 20 years. It's one of those things. The basics of the show stays the same, but this, because it's always evolving with the circus, it's very interesting. Keeps you on your toes, certainly. Not saying that theatre shows don't, but I think it's less so in theatre theatre musicals. They don't change that much unless you've got a theatre space that you tour into, which is smaller, and so you need to kind of reprogram some of the moves just simply because you've got less space in the venue that you're going into.
So you mentioned some people, like some of the performers, come to you and say, "Oh, we're adding this in, or we're changing that."
Yeah.
Do you then have to sit down with that performer and go, right, what is happening, or is there a like creative liberty with it where there's a bit of freedom on your side?
Yeah. Yeah, so going back to the circus again, because this is where this mainly happens, like as for me, so that's my experience. There's a very good bond generally between the automation operator, programmer, and the artist doing the work. There's a trust there. If you're going to be throwing someone around in the air at, 8 foot a second, 10 foot a second, then they need to trust you a little bit. Yeah. So there's always a good relationship there. Now it's usually worked out with the artistic director as well, and also the GSM, which is general stage manager, which is kind of like the big head honcho for the stage management team, and a coach. So there's plenty of coaches with the circus, and they help the artists along with their routines, put in suggestions. So you kind of go through this group of what we call the artistic team, but ultimately it's the artist who you're flying around. But you do get a bit of scope. Like sometimes, they say, "Oh, can you put this?" And say, "Well, let me try doing this and see what you think." And they don't like it, or they do. But so the creativity comes from them, but you can also help them out technically, and also what the limits are of your machinery as well. So if something's not possible, or something is dangerous, or you think is dangerous, more importantly, then you can suggest another way to do something. So, but yes, one of the nice things about doing and programming automation is you kind of can be a little bit artistic with it as well. It's one of the nice things about it.
Yeah. Do you have any personal highlights from working with Cirque du Soleil as well? It's like any moments in a show, or any show in general, not just Cirque.
Yeah, there is, like, especially when we're doing a creation of a show. I did the creation of Volta. So basically we put everything of that together, and when you look back on it, and you can think, normally Cirque shows go on for years at a time, and to think you created something, and then, or you helped create something, I should say, and that stays with you, and it's a hard slog, the creation process. But once you've come out of it and you see what you've put on stage, and you see that you've been part of that, then it can be quite proud moments, really, of the things that you've done. They really are spectacular shows, and to be involved in starting something like that up it makes me happy. I enjoy the whole experience of creating. I'd like to think I was a little bit arty, so that pleases me. But also, with musicals, I very much enjoy musicals as a genre. I go out and watch them, when I'm free. So to go and be part, of the team that helps put one on, and that putting them on is a massive job, as you know. So I'm very happy. I mean, when I used to be Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, we always used to have some celebrities on it. Like they'd play wherever we were, the Karate Pot's character would be played by, someone who was famous in that area. And so there'd always be these the stage door. Johnny's at the stage door getting the autographs, and then I used to come out and shout, "Hey, I'm the car, everybody!" So I'd get a few people asking for autographs because I was the car, because I flew the car. So, but yes, generally, I would say the whole creation of it, and trying to be arty and stuff. That's a good thing to do. I enjoy it. I also really enjoy traveling, which is kind of comes well with the job.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places. There's not many places I've not been because of the job. So that's
because you've toured worldwide. So I was having a proper Facebook snoop and stuff. Like some of it, it's like you've travelled everywhere by the looks of it.
Yes, I've been very lucky. I mean, I started touring. I travelled just on my own steam when I was younger because I enjoyed travelling. When I got into theatre, and I've been touring probably since 2002. I think the first place I ever went to was Dublin with Miss Saigon. And then I've been to various places. And then as soon as I joined the circus crowd, I just went crazy, and literally was away for 10 years. I was living in America and Canada, and we went over to Southeast Asia, at the time in Australia, South America. Never really done much of Africa, but it's not too many big touring circus shows go there, but maybe in the future.
But yep, I just have one last question for you. That's all right. What advice do you have for people wanting to get into this world of tech and circus once it's safe?
Keep at it, basically. There's a lot of courses that you can do, depending on what you want to do. You want to be lighting or sound or stage management or any kind of technical. Automation is not a load of courses. It's a bit of a black art in a way. It's becoming more and more like there's a couple of courses in the States now, and I think there's one over here, but it's not, and they always involve it in the drama school tech courses as well. It always has a mention that there's stuff you can do. But I would say be persistent. You've got to be hungry for what you do. And we are hungry for it because, as you know, this is what we like to do. And it's a hobby. It was a hobby. It turned into a job. And, it's just something you need to constantly keep on chipping away at. And there is competition. And I would just say, keep on going at it. Keep studying wherever you can. If you can learn stuff for automation about electronics and mechanics and software, that's going to help you in good stead. Also, it is people that it is networking that helps out a lot of the time as well. As much as I hate to say it, it is people that in the industry can also help you out. But you just got to have sheer determination. And there's going to be times where you think, well, I can't be bothered with this, but I just keep on going for it and send loads of letters and do whatever you can. Make sure if you're not even involved yet, definitely get involved in your local theatre if you can, and try and apply for crewing work whenever there's big shows come to the town. They're always looking for like extra crew and stuff like that. Make sure that you get yourself involved there. I did that from the very start, from just working as stage crew and just carrying on constantly doing it. I also had a bit of luck as well. And I'm also extremely good looking, so that helps out.
Well, Craig, that's been some brilliant advice. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to see you again. It's been a while.
Yes, you. Yeah.
Yep. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Interval Conversations.